Today I'm putting another section into a willow structure. This is a big one. This runs right across the entirety of the top of the site. You can see just how many willow whips have gone in. This has gone in just this winter. It's tree planting season, so we've put in the outer skin of the shelter belt is where you see that line of tree guards. That's common alder with an understory of hazel. This is a bit inside of that, and this is where we're going to put a huge amount of biomass willow that'll be woven together into really nice structures. There's some really beautiful examples of this sort of thing online, and why not? You know, if you're going to have a row of willow, why not make it attractive? So where I'm actually standing here is where we've got a particularly large cutting either side. This is going to be the beginnings of an archway. It comes up and over like a doorway. And you can see there's a little run of willow here and a corresponding one here, so that I've got enough material to make something that isn't just, you know, two trees woven together, something a bit more three-dimensional. And we will be adding more into it. We'll come to that in a minute. The bit off to my left, there's still a gap in there. That's what we're going to be filling in today, or making a start on today. But I'll show you basically what we've done so far. So we've got what will be an entranceway here. This will be a solid wall of woven willow all the way down here. It'll have occasional windows in it, not too many, because you know it is primarily as a windbreak, but the odd one just for a bit of a feature. I have considered, just for fun, sometimes you could put even a glazed window in it. You know, it'll still act as a windbreak at that point. We've got another archway going in here. There's an archway way down the other end, but I'll show you that when we're doing it. That's actually in a different orientation. But the idea is that these will open up into effectively rooms behind, nice little sheltered spaces. So whichever way the wind's coming from, you've always got somewhere you can get in behind into a nice bench, into a bit of a lee, and it also breaks the site up hugely and gives us a massive amount of biomass for, you know, running the whole house. You know, most of our systems run directly on biomass that's grown on site, and it's this willow. So that's why we keep planting it by the thousand. So this is another gateway, another doorway, archway through. Then we've got, and again, you know, we've got the same depth. We've got the willow continuing further down, and we come as far as here. Actually, we did come a bit further, but I keep clipping it with the van, so we're just leaving it until I've got a proper turning circle for the van in. So this is the new material that we got a couple of days ago. We don't worry about what we're putting in particularly up here. It's just whatever spare biomass willow people are getting rid of. So, you know, it's hedge cuttings and so on. This came from actually a gardening client's garden. I think yeah, some of this is still alive. There's a really nice branch. It was just that it was hanging into the road, so it had to come off. And there's a lot of material, so rather than just dry it out and burning it as firewood, I mean, you can see just how much of it is. And also you can see its tendency to grow long, thin shoots. It's exactly what we want for running the mass heaters, is long, thin wood that's really quick and easy to process, rather than, you know, messing around with these little bits here. You know, we don't want the thinner stuff. We want, you know, all the stuff with too many knots in. That's what we want, is long, thin ones. And it's also really nice for weaving things into good, strong structures. So I'm going to start sectioning this down and getting it in, and we'll probably come back probably in a couple of days when the wind calms down again, and see just, you know, just what's going on at the far end and what it'll look like. So that's all the thin stuff in. Everything that I can just, you know, push in, because that's really squelchy, very saturated. So it's been pretty simple putting in the sticks, and there's hundreds and hundreds of them gone in. But now we've come across things like this. Now, if I took an axe to the bottom of that for a couple of minutes, I could put a point on it, and then I could get a sledgehammer and just knock it in, and that'll work as the easiest way of doing it. But I'm not going down the field to get those tools, and I've got this with me anyway. And you can see that's roughly the right sort of shape I'm looking for. So all I'm going to do is literally dig a shallow hole, drop this in, and pack down around it, and it'll be really well anchored, because there's a lot of energy in this log. So once this starts sprouting in the spring, it's going to put out a lot of shoots. So I want to have it fairly anchored up to about there, well over a foot, so that as it starts rocking in the summer, it's not going to go anywhere. You can put the shoots out, and this will be a tree much quicker than the others. With wood like this, it's a nice head start. This is the longest one I've got of this sort of size. This is also a good one, so that's going to put corresponding on this side. So as these come through and start putting on all sorts of growth in the spring, we'll have at the core of it two that will effectively become trees pretty quickly. And then the shorter ones like this, we'll bury them about halfway up. Similar sort of thing, but at the front edge. So that this, the first archway that becomes visible as we come round. So the first part of this whole run of willow structure is going to be the first, you know, the big showpiece bit that people see. So we're going to put the big logs in this and just this end, just to give it a really fast head start. But it's really simple, same as planting any other willow. I'm just going to make a bit of a hole first, but that's basically it. I really like these trenching spades because I'm cutting out more or less the right sort of shape that I need. If the soil dries out and shrinks in summer, so I'm going to pull that out a bit, but you can see it's a nicely shaped hole. And as it starts to shrink in summer, it's very easy to come and stamp down around it or mulch around it or whatever. If you've got like a, so I'll just loosen that up. No, I'll go a bit deeper than that maybe. But if you've got a slot trench for a tree like this, once it starts to dry in summer, the whole thing can just separate, and it's very difficult at that point to get soil back around the cutting. So, there we go. Call that good, so make sure I got the correct end downwards, although willow will, there we go, willow will cope with that. It'll actually cope with growing upside down. I'm going to put a bit of that in, and then I'm going to tamp it around with the bottom of this, just to give it a really firm seating in, so there's no voids down there really. I'll put this back around it, and by the time I've finished, there's no excess soil to deal with. It's all gone back into its own hole. So that is, what, a couple of minutes, and that's a pretty solid cutting. By the time that starts putting roots out in the summer, at the same time that it starts putting growth on at the top, that's going to be a pretty established tree pretty quickly. So I'll put the others in, and then we'll come back and film some more. So that's it done. You can see they're pretty embedded in. So I've got the two on that side, very substantial chunks of wood. Same here, but obviously that one I've prioritised height over girth. And then on this side here, I've put this one purely because this is the end of the row. This tree here is a crab apple. This is going to be grafted to the one on my left here with various scion wood, so it's going to be more like a multi-grafted apple tree, and that'll fill this space. But because potentially we could have wind coming in from this direction, I don't want the whole dome to have too much wobble, so I've added, well, sorry, the archway to have too much wobble, so I've added this one on this side, just so that at the point that this starts putting osiers out and I can tie that into it, it'll give me, you know, a better angle of strength on this side. It'll just make it for a stronger structure. So that's it. It's I mean, I can keep going forever. I keep finding things like that, you know, and that's a cutting. I could there's every chance that'll grow at this point. So I'll be doing that probably for the next few days as I keep finding bits that I've cut, because I've put the majority of it in, but there's bits of willow everywhere. It's hundreds of cuttings. Now, not all of these can take. I mean, you can see just how many have gone in, and maybe half of them perhaps will take. We lose some to rodents. A greater concern with the shorter ones is currently we're right at the beginning of February, and it looks like, oh look, they're well above the grass level, no problem, they'll get a good start in the spring. Once things start growing here, because we got this far north, we're really far north, we get like 20 hours of daylight in summer. So once the days start really lengthening within the next 6 weeks or so, the grass will start growing, and once the grass starts growing, I mean, it'll be up to here, within the that's with no grazing at all. That'll just be the background level. Very easy to swamp the willow if it doesn't get a head start. I always intend to come through and chop and drop the grass and give it half a chance. It hardly ever happens. It's not the priority. We've got fruit trees, we've got trees that I've actually spent money on, and they're the priority. I'd rather do the chop and drop around them, and just the willow that takes, and those that doesn't. What we generally do with these sort of structures is we just keep throwing willow at it until plenty survives. That's what we've done with all of the domes the domes and the arches that we put in so far. And sometimes it's taken a lot of cuttings to get it to take. These are really healthy, good, strong cuttings, so especially these ones. So a lot of them will take. It's going to be a really good head start, but there's always the option of we might have a drought from late spring, for example, in which case we're going to lose a lot. We might have a lot of vole pressure, we might have a particularly bad vole year, we're going to lose a lot. Right, let's walk this quick because the rain's coming in. So you can see just how many. So we've got the first archway there. This will be a solid wall of willow with another archway here. So the other side of this wall, so here for example, this is a staghorn sumac, which is going to be framed by that nice archway. And sumac is a beautiful tree, really nice, even in winter, very statuesque, beautiful, colourful tree. And when it's out got its leaves out in summer, it's got that nice red foliage and beautiful, pardon me, one of my favourite trees, and has got a purpose. This will be a nice big, like a Gothic arch with that framed beautifully. This whole section between this and the triple row of coppice shelter belt that you can see the white tree guards, this whole thing is going to be inside the shelter belt, but the willow on the inside is, so it's a skin from winds from the north, that's the skin for winds from the south, vaguely. It's not quite southwest, north-south, but close enough. So anything in between is going to be pretty sheltered for a shelter belt species. So we can get away with some really nice, good fruit production through here. And there'd be nice places if we've got enough people on site that we need, people want places to come and camp. Can you imagine anything more beautiful inside? A big willow structure with fruit trees overhead. Sounds good to me. So that's that's the second archway, which also happens to be completely halfway between the two pods. So there's a pod that side, there's a pod that side. The track between them is straight in front of me. Cameraman standing on it. So it's framed up so as people come from the pods and walk up towards the main track, again, they get the same view. You can put things into any position that you like and have them productive. And this is going to be predominantly a firewood production system, bear in mind. This isn't some fancy, stately home type garden. This is a production system. But why not make it beautiful while you're at it? Yeah? So we've got another big, huge row of willow. Got another archway here. This is probably one of the underplanted ones. There's not a huge amount, but some of these, they're pretty significant cuttings. They'll get a chance. This section is one we planted earlier in the year when we had less cuttings, and I was still trying to get as much material as I could out of it. So a lot of it will take, and we'll get more willow yet through the winter, through the spring. We're always cutting willow. We're always being given willow. And it'll just keep coming through. So there's another big bank of willow here, all of this woven together, and there'll be the odd window in it and so on so people can see through. And then again, there'll be another structure here eventually, but that's the final pod. This is the track down between them, so we've got another archway here. So again, people walking in this direction get the nice view with something high value behind, something nice and pretty framed. And similarly the other way, people walking this direction aren't looking straight into one of the camping pods. They get the nice view out over the loch and so on between the pods. So again, it's a nice bit of privacy on the site and so on. Hugely productive space, one of the most sheltered spaces we've got in the top food forest, but framed by really beautiful structures. And then same thing, conventional run out as far as here, which is why I've got this dead stick on the end. This will eventually swing around and join up with this archway here. This has to be kept clear for the foreseeable future, because currently in summer, it wouldn't work at this time of year, I'd sink, but in summer that's the reversing circle for the van. So I got to keep it clear, or I'm just going to keep taking a willow out by reversing through it. So eventually, and who knows, we might even decide to have a really big arch or something in here. There's nothing saying that we have to close it in. So yeah, that is the current state of play with this massive willow structure. It's going to keep being built. We'll keep adding to it. We'll start weaving it. It'll take a few years before it starts coming up to good height, but who knows, we might actually get around to doing a bit more maintenance on it this year. But yeah, it's not a bad structure for something that's effectively free. All it's taken me is the time to put it in. It's a major infrastructure item. Gives us huge amounts of biomass. It's a good forage crop for bees in the spring. Willow, it's got so many yields. I could keep going all day. Willow mulch, so tree wood, you know, the actual wood itself that's been ground up and used as a mulch around trees has been proven to have a beneficial health effect, almost like an inoculant for trees. It's for, you know, so it increases the health and productivity of your fruit trees, for example. Willow's amazing. It's let's see what else. It's a source of aspirin, of course, which is what it's most widely known as, but the same group of chemicals are also more widely used by us anyway for rooting hormone. Very effective rooting hormone, just as good as the stuff that you buy. It's not one of those things that kind of works, it works. What else? I mean, there's, you name it, it's a hugely productive thing, you know, basketry and all sorts. So yeah, it's a free piece of infrastructure. It's going to keep growing for generations.